accept the nomination of our party.
Flooding in Abuja, the capital city of Nigeria, is a recurring issue that poses significant challenges to the city's infrastructure and residents. Abuja experiences both urban and flash floodings, primarily caused by intense rainfall and inadequate drainage systems. The city's rapid urbanization and insufficient urban planning contribute to the vulnerability of Abuja to flooding. With the expansion of residential and commercial areas, natural waterways are often blocked or redirected, leading to increased surface runoffs during heavy rains. The consequences of flooding in Abuja are severe. It results in the displacement of residents, damage to homes, disruption of essential services, and loss of lives. Economic activities are also suffer as businesses and transportation systems are affected. In recent years, the Abuja Environmental Protection Board and other relevant agencies, such as the Federal Emergency Management Agency, have made efforts to mitigate flooding by improving drainage infrastructure, clearing water channels, and enforcing regulations on buildings constructed in flood-prone areas. However, these measures manage the scale and intensity of flooding during extreme weather events. But the need for long-term solutions to address flooding in Abuja is crucial. The question is, how do we address this? Joining me on the program to give answers to the begging question is the Director General of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Idris Abbas. We love Abuja. And this is why we bring you events, reports, interviews, and everything relating to the FCT. This is Abuja File.
Stand before you today to accept the nomination of our party.
It's a pleasure to have you join us on the studio side. It's always amazing to have you or to be able to have this conversation with you.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, before we go into details, let's begin with what happened recently at Trademore. We had reports that there was severe floodings at Trademore that submerged over 116 houses in that area. Could you give us some details as to what exactly happened? What went wrong?
Well, you know, at Trademore, as usual, every year they used to experience flooding. And why? Because they are sitting on the waterway. So the entire building has no structure, it's not well planned. And everybody just built the way and manner he or she likes. Apart from the fact that they know that they are on the lower valley and they should have allowed a passage of the water where it can pass. But all of them just get the land. You know, according to the records, the initial allocation was made by the AMAC, the local government, and the plan was not approved. So there was no approval. When you get allocation of the land, it's one thing. And it's another thing to get approval for the kind of building you want to, because you have to submit the building plan the way you want it, and then they will look at it and ensure that it has not done compromise with the master plan. So if it is in order, they will approve it for you. So in that case, they didn't. So everybody built indiscriminately. So, and that is why those houses we marked, 116 of them, as at that day, that they were submerged to the roof level. So there were some that have not even reached the roof level. So we didn't mark those ones.
Wow, that's a very serious issue, because you just
It
mentioned
is.
that over the years,
Yes.
consistently, that particular area has
Exactly.
experienced floodings.
Exactly.
But why is it that up till now, nothing has been done over the years? And you see the reaction of the residents to the marking of the 116 houses. Some of them still claim that they were not in the waterways, and they kept on emphasizing, look at the waterways, nobody has constructed anything here. So why did it take this long for something to be done? And you have seen how the residents are reacting to that.
Well, they will react. You know, Nigerians, when you are at the wrong side of it, you still claim to perfect your own points.
Yes.
They know that they don't have anything to show why they are there, and they are not for, as far as Abuja is concerned, they cannot toil with the master plan. And so as such, they definitely know that one day they will have to leave, because they have been served warning several times, and several governments have come, they ask them, leave this place, because the place is not meant for any development. It's a waterway. So the best the government could do is to green the area and ensure that there is a proper drainages that will take the storm water that comes through that treadmill and got away to Gurara River. In fact, the surrounding area is not a planning zone. It has not been planned. The only place that is approved is the VON. And because they are not going to make it residential just for their transmitters, and that was why it was approved for them. And that is why when we are removing the police station from the treadmill, we remove it and move it to the approved site. That's the Vaughan side. So that is where it is. But the entire treadmill has no approval to stay there, and it's for their own safety. You don't have to be arguing. Nobody is going to take your land. I had some argument that if they take us away, they are going to share the lands, and there are so many lands in Abuja to be shared. If they don't have the record, they should go and look at the records, that there are so many lands. In fact, from that area up to Lube, it has not been developed in phase 5. So approvals have not gone to that level. So nobody is trying to take their land. It's for their own safety. And that is why we are emphasizing. But when they refuse to, we declare the place as a disaster zone. So it's for their own safety to leave the place.
Okay, so when the place is declared as a disaster zone, what happens?
Then, of course, they are on their own.
Okay.
They are on their own. And anything that happens to them, in the global world, because we have followed the international standard way of declaration. So we have declared the place a standard zone. The world knew that, yes, that place is a dead zone.
So whatever happens to them, nobody is coming to save them?
Nobody is. It will just attract empathy and other things, but not for development. If, for instance, it's an approved area, but there is consistent calamity or hazard in that area, and is beyond our own containment, then we declare the place a disaster zone. That means we are calling for support. But this one, they know that it's a flood-prone area, and so we ask the people to leave. They refuse to leave, so we declare it a disaster zone, so that people will be careful not to go there, and those that are there should evacuate.
But then the question is I'm going to ask this question out of empathy. The question now is going to be, leave and go where?
Where did you come from?
We know they all came from somewhere, but then you're asking them to leave and then go where? Because lots of people are going to also talk about the investment of erecting the structure and all of that, buying the land and everything that they've invested into that place. So asking them to leave, it might not be an easy one.
So if, for instance, somebody left Treadmill and he still wants to stay in Abuja and got a land around maybe Asokoro, he will not do such before he pay for it? I'm asking you. He will just go and pay?
Have to do some research.
So have they done it before they build the land there? So whose fault is that? At least everybody, if you go to a place and you want to, even if you are renting, you have to ask questions. If there are authorities, if that place somebody was there before he left. You need to find out why did he left there. You see, if he is still in the town and he left that area to another area, there must be a problem with the house. Either he has a problem with the landlord, either the problem is the landlord is not somebody who tolerates things, or there is such flooding happening, and
or there are issues with the house.
There are issues with the house or with the community. So if you go to rent a house, you need to ask such questions before you do it. What more than you are going to buy a land? You bought a land and you want to build. Can't you ask? Even in everybody's village, there are authorities. If there is no development institution, there must be a chief who authorizes and say, okay, we welcome you to our meet, and we go ahead to build. But so in Abuja, somebody who is enlightened, you just go and buy a land and build without knowing whether it is a waterway or it is a green area or it is a flood prone. You have to ask questions.
Okay, I will leave that. Then that's going to be their fault. Let's leave that on them. But then there are also similar, more reports that we've received recently in Abuja. I'm just directing these questions to you because every single time we saw a report like that, your name was mentioned. The issue of a collapsed building somewhere in Gwarimpa Life Camp area.
Yes.
Does that have something to do with the rains, or is that the fault of the construction company? What
No,
what
it
went
is the
wrong
fault
there?
of the construction.
Okay.
The integrity of the building. The building had started a long time ago.
Yes.
And the integrity, it has no integrity at all. So the builder tried to get additional approval to continue with the building. So the development control carried out integrity tests and it failed. So they told him that it has no integrity, so he should not do it. Even his engineer, according to what we got, the information we got, even his engineer advised him not to continue with the building, because at the end of the day, because he is going to put a casting on the whole entire building, and it's a very massive structure. Okay. So the engineer told him that you can't do that. You can't put casting on such structure when it lacks integrity. So the end result was collapse. The whole structure goes down.
Yes.
So that is to show that at the initial stage, even the material he used was substandard.
Because I know how integrity test works. You do the sand testing, the gravel testing, everything is tested.
Yes. And
it failed, and he decided. So in that situation, what happens to the owner of the building? Something should be done. Absolutely.
I'm sure the committee that is going to investigate will come up with the recommendation. But the one thing is that automatically he has lost the land, because that is the automatic sanction of any building that you are doing.
The government retrieves the land.
Exactly. Okay. It's automatic. So the only thing that was not done before was prosecution, which we are going to start it now. And then in the prosecution, we'll also you have to pay the charges we did for 2 days.
Okay.
Evacuating and searching to get people to remove people from the rubbles. So he has to pay for that.
All right. Now, away from that, back to the issues of flooding. Let's now look at it generally in the FCT. So what has FEMA done in the long, because I know that this time last year we had this conversation regarding issues of flooding and all of that. From that time till now, has there been any moves to mitigate the effects of flooding? Because I know that last year we had serious issues of flooding, not just in FCT, here in the whole of Nigeria. And we started talking about flood mitigation since then. And recently, I think during the week, I also reported that we should expect more floodings in many states. Yes. And I'm wondering, what is going on? Why are we not doing something? Why has something not been done? Because I feel like at this point, we should not be as worried as we were last year.
We have been doing a lot. In fact, since the cessation of the last year's rainfall, we have been on our toes.
Okay.
We carried out an assessment. Maybe you were not part of the assessment tour. We carried out an assessment of the entire FCT, especially those areas that suffered flooding that were not on our list for the previous year.
Okay.
And this and now assess the cause of the flooding in that area. And we were able to come up with why such area flooded, and we got the relevant SDA majority of the problems were either blockages and or the culvert, the box culvert was too small.
Okay.
So we called on FCDA to change the box culvert to river bridge, which they have done.
Okay.
And the AEPB also, where we had issues of blockage as a result of waste. That one also, we drew their attentions and they did the same. STDD, in terms of the satellite towns,
okay,
all of them they have. And then the FMM, that's the Facility Maintenance and Management, who takes care of the maintenance of the city center. We also drew their attention to that effect, where we have manholes, blockages, and other things. So all those have been taken care of, and it becomes a routine now. The silting of the drainages, as well as opening up of the manholes, is a routine thing. We don't have to, especially when it rains, we go around, all the stakeholders, the SDS go around to ensure that they didn't, where they see any blockage, they have to remove it. So, and then the enlightenment, educating the public, still going on.
Okay, so I was going to ask that those areas that you said were added to the list, do the residents of those areas know that they are now on the hot list?
Yeah, they know. And we had interactive sessions with them and their traditional rulers. We enlighten them. We also engage their youth to tell them, to coach them, and be telling them what to tell the community, and then to observe certain warning signs. And not only this, we have made it in an exclusive something, so that even those living with disability are involved. How can a blind man discover that there is a threat in where he is? And how can a blind, a deaf person also be able to discover that there is a threat? So they should be able to understand, to also get to identify the early warnings that we are sending. So all those are being done. You see, like last year, it was only FCT that had no casualty.
Yes.
And we're trying to also maintain that, by God's grace, for this year. Because for those, well, some people who were saying at the tremor that there was a dead body, they saw a dead body, but nobody told us where they took the dead body to, with no picture of the dead body, no relation that were seen.
There's no evidence of that.
No evidence of that, but they just said there was a death. So we debunked that. And where, if you involve the police, which police station did you? And we have asked the that area at Trademore police station if such information was brought on. Nothing. So we don't believe that it's just somebody who wants to play some frank. So we didn't believe on that. So we are trying to make sure that nobody lost his life. And the signposts we used to, we have also mounted those signposts. We have increased them where we identified more flood-prone areas, and even extended to satellite towns and area councils. Okay.
You also mentioned that there are more flood-prone areas in this year compared to last year.
Absolutely.
Would you mind sharing those flood-prone areas so that people who are watching can be more aware? Just so that in case you are living in the area and you've not heard.
No. If you are really living in the flood-prone area, you must know, because we have gone there and we have informed the community, everybody. And then we mounted the signboard. So if you don't see signboard by your own house or where you are living, the area, that means you are not in the flood-prone area. So
after the information, are they also invested in trying to make sure that they don't have flood? Because it's not just about knowing. I know that there are lots of moves that have to be put in place, like being proper waste disposal and all of that, to make sure.
That is what we engage them on, and we told them that if you do this, you will now get onto the list of flood-prone area. You are inviting flood. So we identify those things that cause the flooding and ask them to. But that notwithstanding, if you are living in a place that is not flood-prone and neighboring the flood-prone area, you might be affected, because the water can be get overflowed from that area to come to your area. So all of us, everybody must be on his own toes to make sure that we observe the environmental laws and ensure that we keep our environment clean. We should not allow the consequences of climate change to take over our environment. If we don't take over the environment, definitely the climate change will take it, and then the consequences will be very dangerous. So we try as much as possible, and that is why even if FCT is not put on the red list on those states that are going to have flood, we still go ahead to ensure that we protect the city, because we are neighboring Nasarawa. If Nasarawa is on red zone, where is Mararaba, and can you differentiate Mararaba? It's a thin line. So the same thing with Kaduna, the same thing with Niger. If you go to this place, Suleja, from Suleja, you see you are already getting to Abuja and Zuba and Suleja. You can't separate it. If you go to Kogi, and especially from Abaji to Lokoja, it's not far. And so it's surrounded, and then above all, the entire city is surrounded by mountains. So that the runoff can also cause flooding along the line. And then the activities of the people in the city. There is overpopulation in the city. There is urbanization. Every day people are building. So the land, the sand that is water was populating doesn't have a space now. So it will now, runoff has been increased. So along the line, you see that a lot of water, the one that is coming from the hill, the one that's supposed to percolate on a particular place, the place has been built, has been cemented, has been put interlocking, so it has to. So runoff has increased. And so if you are really living on the waterway, like Trademore, that is the danger. Because the water that runs to Trademore that day, it wasn't the water that fell in Abuja that very time. It must have come from another area. So if you really try to block its own way, it will find its way out. And on the process, it will overflow.
Okay. Now you mentioned something very interesting. You said something about water that's supposed to infiltrate into the ground not being able to because of the interlocking and all of that. So don't you think we should be doing something to stop that? Let's say, for instance, we have a master plan that we are working with. So when people are not following the master plan, something should be done. Because I think, with what you said now, I think it should be a rule or a law that when you're building in Abuja, interlocking is a no-no.
No. What is there is that in your own house, if you are requesting for approval of a building now, you must also come up with the design, the design of your what do you call it?
Drainage system?
No, not drainage system. Oh, sorry. The way you design your house. Leave a flower base where you can put flower, and if you cover the entire land, you will not get approval. But if you can leave some places where you can plant flowers, and then places like at the center where something can be done, or you just plant a tree, but the place is carved, open, so that is the kind of this thing that will be approved. But if you cement everything, if the design shows that you are going to put interlock everywhere, you will not get approval.
But when you show a design and then you do otherwise, who checkmates that?
No, definitely the officers are there to inspect the building. Because ideally, if you are given approval to build, at every stage you must be observed, you must be inspected, and then you be given certificate to move ahead. Those that are building story building, before you put the next floor, you have to be certificated. They have to observe and make sure that the first floor is okay, or the ground floor is okay before you start putting the first floor. So that is how it is. But you know, this thing that the collapsed building we had, it was just during that holidays, the Salah holidays, that they started working. Because in Abuja, if you have a long holiday like the Salah holiday that passed, you can build a structure and roof it, especially a bungalow. And those ones are illegal builders. That is the time they have to do that, and that is why the other guy when they said you cannot go ahead with your building, and he went ahead with the building during the break. That's the problem.
That's a very sad one. So let's now talk about emergency management, because I remember that FEMA and NEMA have a toll-free line 112 or 112. Yes. So how has that been functioning? Is it still accessible? What has been
24/7?
What has the use been like?
Pardon?
What has the use been like? Have people been patronizing
People are now,
it
yes.
enough?
Initially, it's our own habit in Nigeria. We don't believe in development.
Yeah.
Any positive development, when they say there is this in Nigeria, they say, it's a lie. They don't do that. And but it becomes a reality. 112 is there. It's not like the line that somebody will just go and commission and then the next day it's not working.
Yes.
It works 24/7. If you can call now, they are there. They will answer you. Do you have any emergency? And that is all, because they don't need to talk much. So you too, you are expected not to talk much. All it is expected, be specific, go direct to the point, and tell them precisely where the emergency is. Then they will be able to assist you.
Okay.
So, and it's very fast enough. You don't need a recharge card. You don't need credit. All you need, you don't even need SIM card. You need SIM card. So if you have a brand new phone and there is an emergency, put it on. It will show you emergency calls only. Yeah. So just dial the 112, it will go.
Okay. And finally, before we go, just to refresh our memories, are your swimmers,
divers,
your divers, are they still available?
Well trained. In fact, they had a water training recently because they used to local rivers. So we had to call consultant to come and teach them how to really swim in a different scenario. Yes. Because the rain can come, the water can come in a different scenario. Can you be able to swim when the waves are very high? Can you go there? Can you dive into the waves and then rescue somebody? So all this need to be done, and they are very ready. But we don't pray that they test the training with training.
We don't pray so too.
We don't pray so.
So before we go, I want you to use this opportunity to send a final warning, because I like you mentioned earlier, and I also know that Abuja majorly has a runoff floodings. I don't know if that's the right word to use. So we need to constantly remind people not to test the waters, because we see situations whereby you're seeing heavy floodings and some people just feel like they can walk against it or they can drive against the tides.
Well, there's nothing we have not said about that, and most of the deaths we recorded in Abuja, it was as a result of that. People will say, I have a SUV or I have a very big Jeep, I can drive on the water. And you have seen videos of severally where a trailer loaded with equipment, ions, were taken away by water. Flood, yes. So you have to, your own small vehicle that you call SUV or Prado or whatever, that is too small for the water. And a 2-meter-inch water is stronger than a Jeep that you are driving. So, and when we are talking of flash flooding, you may not know. You think you can see this place as a dry place, but as you walk, before you cross, the flash flooding can reach you because it's very fast, and that is the water, the kind of flood that kills easily. And that is the flash flooding that we had last week that run to trade more. So people should be careful in driving. They shouldn't drive into the water and onto the, and we that is why we mounted those signboards with the sign with the warning that don't drive on the water or walk on it. Please just wait. Flash flooding doesn't last more than 15 minutes, no matter how much it is. It doesn't last more than 15 minutes. So allow it. If you are not living on the waterway, you are free. Just wait and be watching it. Before you know it, it goes away. The Trademore incident shows that we were there and the water went away. And so that is why we were surprised when the next day somebody was telling us that they saw a dead body hang on the distance when we were there when the water receded. So it is the best thing for us is to make sure that we observe those rules, and then ensure that we safeguard our lives and our property. And we are the first savers and responders of ourselves. So if we try to demonstrate that you can really swim in the water, the water can take you away.
All right, thank you very much. It's been amazing talking to you, and I'm very sure that our viewers are more informed and they are more alert. Please do not attempt, let me use the word attempt, to walk in flooded areas, not even just flash flooding. Just wait till the rains are over. And that was our conversation with the Director General of FEMA. His name is Idris Abbas. And with that, we'll draw the curtain today on Abuja Fire, coming to you from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. Till I come your way next time, I remain Sandra Ago. Bye for now.
Stand before you today to accept the nomination of our party.